Hey, I hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to go over some real life numbers of an investor flip. This is a real place, real investor, one of my clients, and these are approximations of their numbers just to break it down for you how it works in real life. We're going to call this Parkplace. Parkplace. When was this? 2021 to 22. Where? This is Columbia, South Carolina. This is where the client was buying. I looked up some properties for them. We have the team in place. All this stuff is in place. The management team, the contractors, who's in charge of what, who's running the money, who's running the renovation. We have all that in place. This is a seasoned contractor who's done this before. So I found him a property. I brought it to him. I said the comps for this property are 205 to 215 at the time. At the time of 2021, that was the comps for this property. And so I put him a little list together. What do we need to do? The cost. What is the cost of this? How much is it going to cost him to get this flip done? So we got to bring the contractor in. If you're a contractor, you can do these numbers yourself, or you need to bring a professional in. Don't try and freestyle the numbers and think they're just going to get them right, because you don't know what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so we brought the contractor in. He said it'll be $68K. He looked at the property with us. It was mostly gutted. There had been a little fire damage, so he had to do some remediation. There was some new wiring that was already started. We had to redo a little bit. Some new plumbing, that kind of stuff. But you always love a gutted house because you can see mostly everything that needs to be done. There's no walls to hide behind. So $68K. Usually the contractor is telling you how much it costs for the work. They're not including usually appliances, and they'll tell you if they're including like a material. They'll usually give you a budget for the material, like flooring or tile or something like that. They'll give you how much they have allowances for there. You just got to know what you're looking for. So once you have your contractor, it's your first time working with them, he gives you a quote. Make sure it's listed in there. Are there allowances for how much the tile costs, how much the floor costs, the LVP, those kinds of things. That way you'll know, am I just paying for the work, or am I paying for the material and the work? It's things to know. So we allocate about $5K for appliances. Pause. All this stuff is for high quality work. Don't do low quality work. Never do low quality work. Always do high quality work. Even the comps, we're comping for high quality work. If you shoot for the moon, you'll hit the stars. Shoot for the stars, you'll hit the moon. That's a quote. That's because you need to shoot at the top. You don't need to go over the top. You don't need to outdo your market there, but you need to go for the top of the market. That'll help you in the end. It'll help your mindset with wanting to do excellence. And the way you know it's excellent is you look at it and say, oh man, this is something I would like to have. This is something I like. Within reason, if you have a reasonable taste there. But this is something that is the quality of work that I would like. If you look in and you think it's a little raggedy, but those do, that's not the right mindset to have. Not the right mindset at all. So, high quality work, 68. Put some appliances in there. Plus $2K in closing costs. What are closing costs? You buy a house, you sell a house, you have to pay the attorneys, taxes, postage stamps, those kind of things. It adds up. And so this is about $75K that the team has put together for how much it would cost to renovate this property. The property is listed at $100K. $100K, 175 plus the buy-in. Buy it. These numbers will go back and forth between the rental and the buy. Because how much you can buy it for depends on how much money you can make out of it. And the magical area is 15 to 20% net. That's how much money you get after you sold the property, paid everybody, and you put it in your pocket, put it in your bank account, rolling into the next home. So 15 to 20% net. Remember that. That'll come back. So they're listed at 100K. That's the list. Let's put this in parentheses here. That's how much they're asking for it. But it's been sitting there on the market for a little bit. It's in an area that is starting to change, starting to turn over, but hasn't been a ton of work done there yet. So we're going to be the first or second, we're about the second house on that block that has been turned over. So it's a prime opportunity to not buy at the top of the market here, not at their list price. So listen to your local real estate agent. Listen to your professional who knows that market, who knows that area. They can tell you what you should be doing as approach to your negotiations when you're coming into this. So they had it listed for 100K. We were able to get it for 81K. 81K. Got it. 81K. We already knew we had the margins to make money in this flip. At 100K, just go back. 100K plus the 700 plus the 75 plus middle of the road here, comp at 210. It's a 35K return. So that falls in that 15 to 20% or greater return. But we went under that because you never know what will happen. So we bought it for 81K. And now it's time to get into the process of things. Hand it over to the contractor, let them do their work. This should be the easiest part of things for you. The upfront part is the hardest part. Mentally, just thinking about what you got to do, making sure you go over the things correctly. Buying part is straightforward once you get the contracts negotiated. Now the process part. What actually happened? How did the numbers shake out? The shakedown. No, let's just say what happened. So we got how much it was going to cost us, the estimate. How much we bought it for? 81K. So what happened? So in the market from 2021 to 22, things went up. Housing prices continued to increase like almost never before. But there was also some costs that were increasing at the time. Remnants of COVID shipping delays, windows were taking longer. The process was taking a little longer. Certain items like lumber were still high, so they're a little higher than what we thought. So the costs, they ended up spending a little bit more money than they thought they were on this renovation side. And I'll show you how that shook out. So, 6. So what happened is we ended up we listed the house at 209, but there's multiple offers everywhere at the time. The winning offer after somebody had backed out of the first offer, the winning offer was 221.5. So that was 12,500 above what we listed for. But great, it was multiple offers at the time. That's the way it was rolling. This was the sale. Now we got to do some subtractions on the back end. We were doing all additions of the analysis, subtraction to get to what you actually paid. 221.5K, but we sold it for. Then you got to take all this money out that you put into it. Oh, and I didn't tell you before, this is a cash buyer, so there's no additional lender costs or anything like that. This is a more straightforward action because it's cash buyer. 221K. The closing cost on the selling side is usually much higher than on the buying side because you have if your seller is paying the buyer's agent fees, which helps the buyers, they're going to have those agency fees, which is usually somewhere between 5% to even 10% I've seen, depending on what the agent is doing for them. So 221K, the closing cost, this is the 6% agent's fee plus the attorney's fee was 17K. That's closing costs. Minus what you actually you know, had the money you actually had to put in there. So that's the 81K you bought it for. I'll just 81K minus last minus here is what the reno ended up actually costing. So 81 from 176 is 90. So the reno ended up costing, instead of 75K, it ended up costing 95K. And that's some things that were decided by the seller, and some things that just came up. Like, give you an example. The reno ended up having to add about $5,000 or $6,000 for a back deck. We wanted to put that on there. Thought it would be nice and it would attract more buyers. As you can see, it worked on this side. Did some staging, which I always suggest for staging. Even though there's not you don't see the direct number correlation of you put this much money in, you'll get this much money out. It helps people see the space much better, and it makes people not look at the minor defects that they wouldn't otherwise notice. It doesn't make them focus on that. They're more wowed by the picture and less looking for bugs on the floor. So staging, they decided to do some extra work with tile and things like that went over, and they just ended up going up to about 95K. But you gotta remember, as they're doing this, they still have their eye on the ball of how much they need to make. So you're not just doing this blindly. And so the equals, they ended up making about, these numbers should equal about 28K was their net. Make sure the number is right. Yep, 204. It'll be 28 or 28.5K here. I decided not to use my calculator to keep this video moving for you. So it was 28K net. That's how much their net was. So now is the time to look back and say, was this a good deal? Was this a good process for them? Did they make good use of their money and their investment? So go back here to add these numbers up. These numbers here. These are the actual cash investments. So that's reno and buy. These are the actual cash investments of the client. So actual cash, he spent 176K. Return. So actual cash spent was 176. Multiply this by the 15 to 20%. I'm gonna put this right under here. This is gonna be your 15 to 20% range. Off camera for a second. And I'm back with my calculator here. So this is the thing that you want to look at. Why 15 to 20%? Because in the stock market and your stocks and your portfolios, other ways that you can invest your money, 15 to 20% in a year is a great year. This isn't a year. We're talking about 6 to 8 months. So 15 to 20% is a fantastic return here. So that's why I use this number. So 176 times 176,000 times 0.15 equals 176 times 0.15 equals, there we go, that's the number. So the bottom of this, 15% was 26,400 to 176 times 0.2, 35,000. So basically 26K to 35K. They're in that range. Congratulations. They did a good job. So it comes down to that, guys. This is a real life thing. This is a real place. 2021, 22 with a real property. These were their estimate numbers. And this is what they were able to buy it for, and the return they were able to get out of here was just 28K. So one of the things we can learn from this, or learn from them, always when you have a rental budget, a rental estimates, always put at least 10%, 10%, but I say like 10 to 15,000. Always have that over what your rental estimate is, and even when you're figuring your numbers, see if I would have to put 10,000 more into this property, would I still be getting a good return? Would I still be in that 15 to 20% range? Would I just barely be, hanging on, or would that totally destroy my returns? Because you have to know that, because if you go over, and if you watch these HGTV shows, if you watch any of the Flipping Network shows, there's always something that comes up that wasn't expected, because you can't know everything that's going to happen. You might see an opportunity to add more value by spending more money, or the market might not be what you expected it to be. But you got to have room to add money into your investment and still get the returns you want. That way you're not pinching pennies and starting to cut corners to try and recoup your things, or try and add cost at the end. That doesn't work. You have to have this stuff planned out at the beginning, so if something comes up, you're still good to go. Everything is still all right. So that's the thing here. Your rental cost ended up going up, but the amount they were able to sell for was going up as well. And these are the things you watch during the process. While the contractor is working on stuff, when he comes to you for things, as you're looking over the property, am I able to add value? Do I have the budget to add value? Or am I trying to deduct from my cost by doing something I shouldn't? Because in the end, you have to sell the property to get the money. So if the property isn't up to scope, if it isn't up to snuff, as they say, then you're not going to sell the property in the timeline you want. Time is going to cost you money. That's another thing that goes in this cost calculator, is the holding cost, how much it costs for electricity, water. In this case, the electricity and water wasn't on for most of the process. But how much that costs you? Is there an HOA that you're paying, depending on what neighborhood you're flipping in? So always have room so that you can still be profitable at the end. You might not be as profitable as you forecast earlier, but you still want to be successful at the end. Hey, I'm just bringing you a real life situation here. I'll come back next week with some more stuff and bring you another property to look at. Have a great one.